Shannon, the two trick plays, the throw to Carson and the CC run, just when you get to draw plays up like that, who's more excited, are you or the players that can execute that?
Probably the players. I'm not overly excited. Those plays either make you look really good or really dumb. You know, you look across the nation and there's not a lot of them working out right now. So, but we've repped the one with CC for about 2 years now. That's been in for a while, and so it just hasn't been the right time or situation really. And so it just popped up in that game, and we just kept repping it. We had it in for a while. Cam Ward texted me after the game, like, finally called it. I was like, yeah, finally called it. Worked like a charm, so good to see CC.
Shannon, what dictates that? I mean, the biggest question that we get is, you know, why call it then? Why not save it for a more significant moment? But then it's been practiced for 3 years and hasn't been called. What dictates that?
I mean, you want certain trick plays you want in like the exact hash, the exact deal, and sometimes they just don't come up. You know, those situations just don't come up. And so, and there's other situations where you get in a close situation, but there's other plays you feel good about, you know, and the defense has to be a certain type of defense. Like if I see them doing a certain thing in that area on tape that is good for that play, I'll probably lean more to running it. But if a defense is unpredictable in that situation, then I'm not, because I need a certain defense to call a certain play like that. I have to feel good about it. And if a defense is being unpredictable and they're man in zone, if they ran zone coverage right there, then CC don't score. They were in double edge man. They played the perfect defense for that play, you know. And they had shown on tape that they do that in that situation. Not all defenses do.
On the flip side, when you show these kinds of plays, what does it do for a defense? Essentially now, whoever you're going to face is going to have to prepare, at least think about things you put on tape.
I think everything you put on tape, you have that in the back of your mind of making people in the future prepare for it. Certain formations and certain motions. We're always trying to find, you know, different ways to do things you do well. And that's the key to offense that people, I think, lose sight of, is the things you execute good in the game are typically the things you've been doing for a while. Having banked reps at things matters. And so a lot of times, you know, and I will probably say the reason we executed that play good is because we repped it for a long time. It wasn't something I just put in this week. You know, I don't know if we would have executed it or not, who knows. But ultimately, things that you execute well are things that kids feel comfortable with, they've done a while. And so, you know, and you go through fall camp and we have a box of trick plays that we'll sprinkle through and just save them for right times. You know, and both of those that we ran this week, we ran in camp, you know, and it was just never the right time to do them until that day, because I mean, I knew we had faked the reverse a few times the week before, and I knew that they were thinking that we were going to toss it to Malley and run the reverse, and everybody would go for him, and then we could throw it back to Carson. And so that one was a pretty easy one to set up.
Did you think, like the first one, the Malachi throwback to Carson, was there any sense, like after that play, that the sideline or you guys kind of loosened up and started playing more free?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's been the goal, the recent goal for us, and one of the reasons that those plays were in and I felt good about calling them was because I want our guys to have fun. And, you know, we have to play loose, we have to have fun. And so I felt like we were a little bit too uptight at times, and that restricts offense. That's fine if you play defense, because you can play defense with your jaw wired shut. You can play defense with high anxiety because it's destruction. But offense, you need to be even killed. You got to be calm. You have to execute. You know, so the two sides of the ball are drastically different. Although they get treated the same, a lot of times they're on different planets. They're aliens. And so I was trying to push our guys offensively to play loose. Stop worrying about the results so much. You know, because if you sit there and obsess about results, and you obsess about, oh, we got to win this game, then you're going to play tight. You know, so at some point we have to just relax and execute the play that's called. And guess what? If it don't work out, then you got to move on to the next play. And you got to block out all the boos and all the stuff and all the stuff that comes with non-executing. And that's hard to do at times because there's just so many external factors, you know, that you're trying to shield the group away from. And so not every game is going to unfold perfectly. And this game was a perfect example. I mean, the first quarter was slow for a lot of different reasons. It was very awkward. The stoppages in the game, it felt like we were standing around for an hour. And the flow of the game was weird. And we just needed somebody to make a play. And Dalen hit the New York, which really that play, you know, that play was the one that relaxed us. Because we hit that one, and then we scored a couple plays later, and then it's like everybody kind of relaxed and just played ball.
With Dalen and with Pringle also, to be able to see some of these young guys who haven't had many reps, be able to step up in the big way, like you said, Dalen's catch, and then Pringle with the touchdown in the third quarter, just to see them starting to step up, especially when you need them to, with no Daniels, no Fletcher, to see some new guys being able to fill in some roles.
Everybody, look, we're not any different than other teams across the nation. Everybody's dealing with injuries, right? And when somebody gets injured, it's we hate it, but somebody's got to step up. You know, and that's typically when young guys get their opportunity, and you have to be ready. I mean, part of being ready is not getting down when you don't have your opportunity. That's the hardest thing to do in sports in general, is to stay the course when it isn't going your way. Because if you think about all the guys in the room, there's X number of guys in the room. Well, half of the guys in the room, the year isn't going their way. Does that make sense? And so they have to stay in a good mind frame to where when they get their opportunity, they can take advantage of it. And that's part of our job as coaches, is to keep them engaged and keep them in the proper mindset. But both of those guys, I will say, they probably were frustrated they weren't getting their opportunity, and that's okay. Like, I never, you know, question a kid to be frustrated because they want something so bad, right? But you can't let it affect your work ethic and the way you go about your business. And they didn't, man. They stayed the course, they stayed positive, and when they got their opportunity, they gave us a spark, and that was awesome because we needed it, right? We desperately needed it, and they stepped up.
With Pringle in particular, you know, he obviously flashes.
Yeah.
What does he bring to the offense that, you know, maybe gives some different looks, or, you know, what does he bring to the backfield?
Well, I mean, he hits it. I mean, he plays with a speed right now that we needed, right? And so, and I also think that, you know, we have a lot of guys in that room that can make a lot of plays, you know, and so we need to get more out of the run game, and he came in and gave us a spark, and I think it'll lift everybody up. I think it'll lift everybody up in that room. And so, you know, it was a spark that we needed in the run game, and Jordan's gonna continue getting his reps, and he can do all the stuff too, you know. So, and Marty played a really, really good game, and he came in and he was a little different change of speed, and he hit it and got out, and that was awesome.
With Keelan Mary, we knew the big play potential he had the last two games to start to see it on the field. Just how good was it to start seeing the results that go with the potential that we.
Yeah, I mean, the last two games he's really shown up in a big way, and although he only caught a handful of balls this game, he did a lot with them, right? And so the throw that Carson made through that window was elite, and he caught it and took it to the house. Obviously, the middle of the field was vacated, but I would say this about him. I mean, he's an awesome kid to be around. His attitude every day is off the chart, and so that part of it is probably the reason why the other stuff is showing up like it is, because the kid is phenomenal every day. His attitude and smile and just overall demeanor is off the chart.
It seems like lately teams are really focusing on taking away Malachi.
Yeah.
Moving forward now, does that enter into your line of thinking in terms of just like using that to your advantage of like, okay, he's gonna get a lot of attention, we're gonna try and use that attention against.
Yeah, I think it opens up opportunities for other people, for sure. And that game in particular, you know, you never know how people are going to play. I do like to have ways to get him the ball when people are trying to take him away. He's one of those guys that, you know, that's why I put him in Wildcat. And that's why I did like a couple other deals with him, because when if people are going to bracket him, we should be able to run the ball really well, because that takes the guy out of the run fit. But ultimately, it does open up opportunities for other people. And you can go back and watch the first play of that game, and if that ball doesn't get tipped, he's probably got an 80-yard touchdown. And so they probably saw that too, and they started bracketing from then on. And so then, other people have to obviously step up and make plays.
Have you ever, it's a strange question, but like a skilled player with his ability to throw the ball?
Yeah, it's weird.
Have you ever had a player like him
No.
that can legitimately throw it like
No, not that not that could line up in quarterback and play. You could. There's been a lot of wildcat guys that you use that can maybe throw it vertical, because that's kind of the easiest one to do, is just kind of throw a 50-50 ball. But he could throw through lanes. He's just a unique talent when it comes to. Watching him throw the ball just pre-practice warming up, he just throws it with ease. And so it is. No, I've never had anybody with his specific talents.
Just with NC State, where are you seeing from them their film on defense, and where are going to be some challenges there from the post?
The energy they play with is really the thing that sticks out. If you watch their last game, which they had an off week this week, but the Georgia Tech game was a different level of energy. And we get that energy from everybody, though. We're everybody's, everybody's level of enthusiasm when they play us is the highest of their year. And so we're going to get that from everybody, but they are playing with a lot of emotion right now, and they're playing very, very hard, and they strain, and they run through blocks. And, it was, what they did on defense against Georgia Tech was impressive. It was impressive, the effort they played with.
This was a big yards after catch game and
Yeah.
passing game. Is that something that's planned? Is that something like?
No, a lot of it has to do with the way, because I got asked before the game about throwing vertical, and I think that a lot of it has to do with how the defense is played. And if you look at how Syracuse played us, it was pretty obvious from the beginning that they were obsessed about stopping our pass game. They were going to give us a weak box at times and play coverage. Well, you're probably not going to get a lot of just throws down the field when people do that. You're probably going to have to rip them through a lane, and the guy's going to have to catch it and go. Kind of like Keelan's catch. And so it all depends on what the defense is trying to take away. And so I think that's why it's very important that we continue running the ball well. Because if you run the ball well, the defenses have to play honest defense. And they have to add that extra half a guy in the box. And then it opens up a lot of things in the pass game.
Shannon, just kind of your take on we haven't asked too much lately, the tight end position, just the production there with what you're seeing, either numbers wise and the yards after or yards per catch isn't there either. Just how are you guys kind of navigating? Do you feel like you can get more out of that group, or is it just kind of at this point it is kind of is what it is?
No, I feel like we can get more. I thought the last couple of weeks of practice, they've had really, really strong weeks of practice, and sometimes it shows up on the game and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes they're, open and the ball doesn't go to them, much like some of the receivers, and so there was a pretty low possession game Saturday. So even Keelan, would he have 3 catches? Malley had 1, I think. And so I think Lofton had 1, so he had the same amount as Malley. If that tells you anything. The scope of receptions in that game, nobody had 8, and so everybody had a couple. And so I don't view that as anything different than I view Malley having 1. The balls go to who the balls go to, and typically the balls go to who's open. And so the defense does dictate that a little bit with the coverage, but the quarterback has a progression, and he goes 1, 2, 3, and they're in every route. Does that make sense? And so the quarterback is going to find you when you get open. And those guys have been doing a great job the last, few weeks. Really, they haven't done a bad job all year. It's just we've missed them a couple times that have been some big ones, which that happens. But ultimately, they just need to keep doing what they're doing, and the ball will find them.
Cutting down on the penalties, just what went into that, I guess, this week, and also just the impact that had.
Yeah.
Is it clear and obvious?
I think it was. We had 1 penalty on the day. It was a holding penalty, and we overcame it and scored that drive. But, typically, if we don't have penalties and turnovers, we win the game. I know that's not earth-shattering. That's not what people want to hear. But, it's true. You know, our defense is playing really good, and you know, it's odd that we're like, I think we're either the number 1 or number 2 time of possession offense in the nation, and so it's like what that tells you, and not a lot because time of possession is kind of a useless stat at times, but what it does tell you is like the games are fairly close and in flow, and so if we don't give them a short field, we can have chances to win the game. And so, and not that I'm not overly harping on certain things because I do think it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy when you like harp on it so much. Kids care, you know, you pointed out, Coach Mirabal points it out, there were some subtle things we did and what we do that probably helped out, but ultimately, I think just kids care, you know, and they're going to do what you ask them to do. They don't want to hurt the team or hurt the drive. They're not doing it on purpose, you know what I mean? And so I think that's the thing to keep in mind. It's different if you're doing something on purpose, but if you're not doing it on purpose, then like, you know, it's sometimes it goes back to just playing a little looser, you know, just relax a little bit, you know.
The blocking on the upshot explosive.
Yeah.
Was it
I mean,
perfect? But
I've never seen a kick block quite executed like that. I've ran that screen for a long time, and typically if you catch them in man coverage, it's an explosive, right? It's the same screen we ran the SMU game, same exact play, same exact coverage, if that tells you anything. And so, but Dalen hit it, and when you hit it, like, there's nobody there. And so, and Brock got out and, you know, cleaned the guy up. I mean, it was a pretty brutal hit. And so, but he does the best at that, getting flat. That's a unique skill set for a center to get from where he's at to that point. You got to get flat and you got to go. And you know, he got there with bad intentions, and so he was the reason the play hit, obviously.
Shannon, with Jordan Lyle, just curious what you've seen from him. What, you know, I think a lot of people, you guys too, expecting him to have a bigger year than he's had in terms of production. What can you pinpoint? Was the injury earlier? Just kind of what's...
Yeah, I think coming off an injury, and I do think that when you're in his situation and expectations are high, and things aren't going exactly the way you want them to go, you press. You know, he's just, to me, he's trying to do too much. Like, Jordan's an extremely talented kid, you know, and he can break a game wide open. And so it's, and I know it's probably not what you want to hear, but I go back to what I was saying earlier, just loosen up a little bit and play ball. Like, stop trying to, like, win the game on every play. Just execute the play, don't get in too much of a hurry, settle down, and just take a deep breath and take advantage of the absolute play that's in front of you. And probably, in a way, just stop overthinking. You know what I mean? Just relax and play football. He's been running the football since he was whatever age, right? And so he's more than capable of being exactly who we want him to be. And he's going to be that. And so, and he's going to start hitting his stride pretty soon. And part of that is just relaxing and playing ball.
It seems like you're still confident in him, the way you just spoke.
Oh, extremely. I love that kid. I mean, he's more than, I mean, he's the talent you're looking for right there. And so he just needs to, in a way, and it's not just talking to him, but just get out of his own way a little bit, right? Just kind of just relax and let natural ability take over and stop. You know, a lot of times when you're in his role and like you're not getting all the carries, but you're getting some carries, then you get in there and when you get one, you try to score every time, you know, instead of just doing your job on that play. And those things will come just because you're a talented dude, right? And so it'll come with him. He's getting there.